Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be talking about Apex Legends, EA, and voice actors with the whole generative AI stuff and how they're kind of taking a stance on generative AI, even more so than before. They were kind of already doing that, a lot of voice actors, but this is a big deal over Apex. We're going to be on PC Gamer today. This is by Harvey Radfall. Thank you for the article. It'll be linked down in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. The title goes, over 30 Apex Legends voice actors refused to sign an agreement that would see them give up our expertise to train the generative AI that will replace us tomorrow. We are asked to shoot ourselves in the foot. And honestly, EA does do some nice things, but this is such an EA thing. Get your voice actors to agree to get them not to make them not have a job. It's so funny that they even thought that people would be okay with signing this. Or maybe they just think they wouldn't read it for some reason. I can't believe that EA would think that they were going to agree to this. But sometimes EA is a EA and they just are really dumb sometimes, honestly. And it seems like at least the voice actors read it properly and are just refusing to sign. And I hope they have lawyers or something like that too, because this might become a very messy situation. Just before we get deeper into the article, I'd like to remind everyone, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Comment down below what you guys think about this, about the AI voice actor thing. And once we hit 1,000 subscribers, I'll be doing a Q&A video, so please subscribe. The turmoil that AI, specifically generative AI, has caused in the voice acting industry continues to rage. While an ongoing SAG-AFTRA strike proceeds apace in the US, it seems like gaming companies are continuing to fumble the bag in other territories, like EA, who has very likely asked the French cast of Apex Legends to train an AI that would invariably replace them, which is just crazy. I don't understand the thought process of any of the people making these decisions to think that they would be okay with that. Because who would be okay with saying, oh, we're going to have you train the thing that's going to replace you? Who would think that would be a good idea? I just don't understand who in the decision-making process thought that this was going to work. AI is already a touchy subject, especially generative AI, and especially with voice actors. So I can't believe they even thought that this was going to be okay and even not talked about at all. Maybe they thought they were going to say no and no fuss was going to be made. I don't know. That's as per voice actor Pascal Chimin Wraith, who in a post to Instagram translated here has been given an offer she and 31 of her colleagues can absolutely refuse. Yeah, it should be noted that Chimin has not confirmed that this agreement came from EA or that it's for Apex Legends, but it's the game her tagged colleagues all share in common. Yeah, it's good. It's probably a very educational guess. The 6-year-long role she later cites also aligns with the release date of Apex Legends, which came out in 2019, that's true, and launched with the character she voice acts. The studio sent me and the 31 other VAs in the casting an email containing an annex of confidentially and hand over directly from the publisher. I needed to accept these terms before being able to do work. I thought so when I read through them, and legal experts specialized in audiovisual confirmed it. These terms weren't acceptable. I'm glad they got a legal person to look at the contract and they read it themselves. I mean, if it's true, then I hope that something can be done to this. I'm curious if EA is just going to replace the voice actors, because unfortunately this is the French voice actors. So unfortunately, they might not be as integral. If this was the English voice actors, then it might matter more, unfortunately, because I don't know how big Apex Legends is in the French language, because I know it's relatively popular in the English language and in the Japanese language specifically. I know those two audiences really love Apex Legends, and I think Spanish is also pretty big too. So I hope that the French side can still push their weight around and they just don't get just replaced, and some people in EA just tries to find people that will accept it. Because it's not like they can just, at least from my knowledge, even if they replace the voice actor, I don't think their voice will be replaced in older voice lines. Maybe, I don't know, that might be a legal thing that I'm not entirely informed on. I was now forced to give up the role. Oh yeah, so they did replace them. I had been working on for almost 6 years. In no way could I force the rest of the casting members to do the same. The one thing was certain: if we all refused, it could maybe have an impact. Otherwise, it would have been in vain. However, it seems like collectively action won out, as Chaimin claims. Without any hesitation, the 31 other VAs all refused to sign this annex. We wrote a collective letter of refusal that we sent to the publisher and are waiting for an answer. If we aren't united now, so that a clause that protects our voices can be officially added in our contracts, and not just for us here, but for every video game dubbing studio, we'll never get one and we'll be heading for a disaster. I agree. I think generative AI can be useful in some ways. I think it's a useful tool to assist human work, but the problem is that a lot of companies are trying to make it replace human work, and that's just not going to happen. Honestly, I just don't think the technology, for first of all, right now especially, the technology is not good enough to replace humans. It's just not good enough. Could we potentially get there at some point? Maybe in the future, but I just don't see it any time soon. So I think it's a very good tool to use as a helping and assistant to a human worker. Like if for some whatever reason a voice actor needed an AI tool to help them with pitches, or maybe like it's like adding like all the voiceover effects for like characters that wear masks and stuff like that, or have robotic voices and stuff like that. Like that stuff could be improved hugely, I think, with AI help, and probably even make it even more efficient. But just full on replacing the voice, I just don't think it's gonna work. And it just sounds weird. For all the AI voice stuff, it just sounds bad, honestly. There's very few things that don't sound like it's an AI, like they're trying to not be an AI. I've heard AI voices that are good, but like they're not trying to be a human, they're trying to be a AI. They're knowingly being an AI tool, or like they're not trying to disguise themselves of not being a robot. So I just feel like it's a losing battle, and it's just a waste of time for these big companies to do this, because I think they could be in the big company headspace. They're trying to do this because they want to save money, but I think investing in the tools for AI to help voice actors would just save you more money in the long run, because you'll be able to do things faster. And so if you're paying them, for example, if you're paying them by the hour, you could finish these sessions quicker, or be able to say, hey, can you do these voice lines for us? And then you can do the editing work, so like another company doesn't have to, or something like that. Like I feel like you can still save a ton of money for these big companies, because that's the reason they're doing this. They want to save money, and they think cutting out the human worker is going to save the most money, which is technically true. But the problem is when you have a worse product, no one's going to want the product. So you're saving money but losing sales potentially. So I just think it's to make the work flow more efficient, I think, is better than to try to replace the humans. And I feel like I shouldn't be the only person thinking this, but maybe they're just too blind by the dollar signs. Or it could be also generative AI companies and tools and stuff like that trying to push for this, because that's the buzzword, to replace human work, because that's it's like the headline, right? It's the headline money saver, because you save the most money if you could just use AI instead of humans, because they are technically true in terms of how much money you could save. But I just don't think it'd be good in terms of moral stance and just making a good product. I think you need the humans there. I think the AI replacements are bad and just make a worse product. And if your objective is to sell a product, you need that product to be good. And I just think the AI alternatives are just bad. The implication, it seems, is that EA was asking the game's French cast to allow their voices to be used to train generative AI, the kind that can be used to replace them. We aren't simply asked to work, we are asked to give up our expertise to train the generative AI that will replace us tomorrow. We are asked to agree to what we specifically fight against. We are asked to shoot ourselves in the foot. We are asked to support AI. Yeah, and like, with everything said too, I just can't believe EA thought this was a good idea. Once again, this isn't officially them. It's just they're being vague, because obviously they don't want to burn too many bridges. So they're not gonna like out them, but with all the evidence pointing towards it, it is probably EA. And I just can't believe they thought this was a good idea, because basically every voice actor has been very vocally against the generative AI side, just like how artists have been very against the generative AI art. And like I just can't believe that they thought this was a good idea. It's just like all the companies that tried to save money through the generative AI art and just it being so awful. Chemin later wrote on X, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that right, that pronouncing that name wrong. Video game publishers want to force their way through, but to accept would to give up. In the short term, our profession, it would be to accept being replaced by a machine. I agree that they should be like trying to fight their things. And I think the human voice actors are just better than what the AIs can produce. Even if like, sure, the whole point was to train them, but even then, I don't have very high confidence in the fact that it would even be good or better than what they could produce. I've contacted EA for comment, but given the public support by Chairman's contemporaries and EA's literal stated aims to use AI as quickly as possible, I'm personally willing to take this at face value. Yeah, me too. In which case, I am both very tired and not particularly surprised. Last October, EA CEO Andrew Wilson stated rather honestly that large systematic changes is required after the game didn't hit its microtransaction targets. Yeah, but that's because the games you are making suck, and it's your fault that they all suck. It's a failure of management that all your games now are bad. I feel bad for anyone still working under EA because you know you're about to get fired soon. Like, there's no way you can survive this. There's going to be so many layoffs at EA. I'm almost sure of it. And it really sucks. And I feel bad. I hope the people at EA are the people that are still working for EA that aren't like in the manager position, like the devs and like any support staff. I really hope they're looking for new jobs because they're going to get blindsided if they're not, because EA is the fact it's just a bad situation when you don't hit like when EA says they're not making enough money, there's only one way to save money when you're not making good products. And that's to fire people, so you're not paying them. While I'm sure EA and many other publishers who care primarily about the line going up would stand to gain via short-term savings by no longer needing to pay its voice actors, this whole thing is just tremendously short-sighted, and any time a company needs to save money in modern era of gaming development, it seems institutional knowledge and long-held voice talent is the first to go. Yep. And all that's going to happen is all that's happening really, in my opinion, is that AAA gaming is slowly cannibalizing itself because they're firing everyone to save money, and then AA studios and indie games are just becoming the things that people play instead, at least in the broader or like the niche hardcore gaming audience. Obviously games like Fortnite, League of Legends, Call of Duty, the sports games are still the most popular games, but they are not as popular as they used to be, which is I think saying something, because before it was like they were obviously far ahead. Now they're just far ahead, and I feel like the more that they do this, the more they're just going to slowly cannibalize themselves and just make it so the AA side can pick up the slack that their people are starting to become disappointed in. Especially now that I feel like the battle royale era has busted, because there's no longer like every single company trying to make a battle royale, and live services are just tanking hard and being shut down. I think a lot of people are sick of it now, and I hope that they go into buying games that are not just the big company ones. But we'll see. Even putting aside the ethical concerns, which you shouldn't, obviously, AI voice work is generally unappealing to listen to, even when it's higher fidelity than the alternative. To generate heart and soul put into performance like Neil Newborn's Astron can't be replaced by a prompt. It's shavings off margins for your next quarter really worth permanently making your game sound like a cheap plastic imitation of itself. In the world of shareholders, maybe, but for everyone else, the AI and shiftications continues. I agree. Like, the AI voice acting in any game I've ever played, other than the joke games that come with there are a bunch of games that have AI voices that are full on just meme games making fun of it. And I've seen a couple indie games, but they're using like the text to speech programs. So it's not really generative AI. It's just like a text to speech program saying things. And those ones, like, I understand as a single, like when you're a one developer show, you can't pay voice actors. And if you want voice acting, you kind of need something like that. And when people use text-to-speech programs, I kind of understand that because, generally I feel like most people understand, yeah, it's a solo development project. They want to be able to pay people and they can't. So they're going to use a text-to-speech program or something like that. But even with the AI stuff, most developers don't even touch the AI stuff. And if they do, it's like usually a negative thing or a joke. I hope EA learns. They're not going to, but I hope other companies learn from this situation that this is not the way to go. There are ways to use generative AI tools, I think, in a good way, but replacing people is just not going to happen, and people are going to be against it, and then you're just going to make an inferior product, or you're not going to have a product at all. So hopefully other companies figure it out, because EA is not going to. EA 100% is not going to. I hope other companies learn from this mistake. Thank you everyone for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. Please comment down below what you guys think about this whole situation, about the EA voice actors and stuff like that. I hope the French voice actors eventually get a decent contract written up without the whole AI stupid stuff. Unfortunately, I doubt it, but we'll see what happens. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you dislike it. If you like to check me out on other platforms, I stream on Twitch now at the Techno Jelly periodically at night. If you'd like to check me out there, I'd appreciate it. If you like to follow me on other social medias, I have a Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Threads if you'd like to check me out on those platforms. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.